These freezing events have been recorded since 1980 is when they started keeping records of these. They happen, every 5 to 10 years. So the last one was in the 2017-2018 time period, the winter of 2017-2018. And we had a little over 3,000 turtles that had come in the state of Texas for that year. And so that actually was an enormous year. That was a new record for Texas for a cold standing event. But it pales in comparison to what happened this year, where we had over 12,000 turtles in the state of Texas come in. One of the things that we have here at Mission Aransas Reserve is our Amos rehabilitation peak. And so we rehab sea turtles and birds. And we get about 1,500 animals in per year. And so anytime there's an event coming up, whether that's an oil spill, a hurricane, a freeze, as in this case, we try to monitor and go out more frequently to see what those impacts are going to be. And so when we have a big freeze or something like that coming, we have partners that are modeling the water temperatures. And so they can predict water temperatures as they go down and what they're going to be into the future based on what air temperatures are going to be. And so that's what happened about a week out from this freeze event. There's folks at the Conrad Blucher Institute that put together this model that showed water temperatures going below the threshold, which there's a threshold of below 50-degree water temperature. That's when sea turtles' metabolism goes down, and they basically just float there. And so they either wash up on shore, and coyotes can get them, vultures, fire ants, things like that, or they get hit by a boat, or they could also drown. And so, it's real important that we look at that threshold and know when we need to get volunteers out there to start looking for these just floating turtles or the ones that are on the shoreline. If the real priority is to save these animals, then we need to bring them in quickly, and we need to put Vaseline on them, drops in their eyes, make sure that they're alive so that we can get them out into the water once the water warms up. That's what we ended up doing. And we were able to save, I believe, a lot more animals that way. You look at the number of animals we saved, which was around 900 in a 10-day period. We need to make every effort possible to save every single animal, because that one animal, especially the females, when they come in, they lay, can lay over 100 eggs at a time. And so think about that. And they come and lay eggs about every 2 years once they reach sexual maturity, and they can do that for 60 to 80 years. And so if one animal is taken out of the population, it could impact generations and generations. And so every single animal we can save is important. And so these freeze events, when you have plants and animals that aren't used to those types of temperatures, it can have huge effects, and maybe even for decades. And once people hear that sea turtles are going to be stranded, these people come out of the woodwork, individuals with boats and fishermen. So there's fishermen that were actually going out in freezing weather, which blows my mind that those are hardcore fishermen right there. But as they're fishing, they would see turtles, and they would just start putting them on their boat. Between all that, all the rehab facilities were able to work with them to be able to get the turtles into a warm space where they could be what we call dry docked for a 24-hour period before some of them being swim tested. So, after the 24-hour period, we want to make sure they can swim before being released. And then ultimately, once the water warms up to 55 degrees, we can release them from the shoreline. Now, that didn't happen this time. So we actually worked with a crew out of Port Aransas, Texas. The wharf is called the Wharf Cat, and the Scat Cat was the name of this the boats we went out on. And they could fit like 500 sea turtles on the deck of their boat. And this is a head boat that takes people out commercial fishing. And so they said, bring them on, we'll load them up and we'll take them offshore where the water is warmer. And so we went 20 miles out and they made this slide that was out of a culvert that was cut in half. And they kind of rigged this thing up to where the turtles could slide right off of it, hit the water, and then swim off. And that's what happened. We went out to where the water temperature was 57 degrees. We went 20 miles offshore, and we released close to 900 sea turtles. And, I was videoing the first sea turtle that went off of this boat. And these are a bunch of deckhands on this boat that were like, everybody has to wear gloves, of course, but they pick up the first turtle and put it in there. When that sea turtle slid down the slide and hit the water and it must have been going 30 miles an hour away from the boat. Everybody was screaming.
Oh, yeah! That's kind of awesome.
Yeah, that's cool, man.
Just fine. Let's do that again. There you go,
yelling and clapping and saying, "Let's get another one." It was actually pretty moving. I thought it was exciting because that's what it's all about. That's why all the volunteers go out and do this, is because you want to see these animals survive. And so whenever it's something as dramatic as sliding them off this makeshift slide and then hitting the water and seeing them paddle 30 miles an hour away from the boat, you think, okay, we did it. It's a success.